All right, what's up? Can you guys hear me? Is anybody here? Nobody's here. Just drinking some coffee right now, waiting for people to show up. Oh, here we go. Looks like it's live now. I'll mute it so I can't hear it. Should probably post this on a few Discords so people can tune in if they want to. Where else should I share this? Oh, my parrot might make some noise while I'm doing this. Anyway, I don't know, I'll paste it in my own server because it's my server, so I can do whatever I want. All right, let me hide Discord. I'm gonna get started now. Maybe some people will show up. If they don't, this will be a recording for other people. So anyway, I thought I'd spend some time this morning, Sunday morning, in Dallas, Texas, where I live. And I'm drinking a double espresso because I'm intermittent fasting, and that's what I drink now in the mornings. So ignore everything over here, even though it's kind of closer, because this is all overflow setup that I'm not using for Knobcon. For Knobcon, what I'm using mainly is this 12U of Eurorack, and I'll walk through that in a moment. And I'll also put a link in the description after I post this to this setup on Modulargrid, which I hope not to change, right? I'm also going to talk about the Hapax, which is right here. And I'm also going to talk about my Xone DJ mixer and how to use a DJ mixer with Eurorack. And I must point out, I'm not a pro DJ. I've never pretended to be a pro DJ. I've never been a DJ. I'm a musician who's using a DJ bit of equipment, which is fun. And I got some pointers from my friend Travarsi recently when she came and visited me. My friend and fellow Transduction Signal Collective founder, Travarsi. Sorry, that's the way I'm supposed to refer to the great Travarsi, and according to the writer we have. I'm just kidding. We're chill. That was just a joke. So, I'm trying to find something to show you, because I don't really want to unplug the one that's in the Xone. Let's talk about the Xone first. So the Xone mixer, it is a DJ mixer. It has a ridiculous sticker of my face on it because, you know, there's styleflip.com, I think it is, supports skins for your devices, and I like branding stuff. So anyway, my parrot may be making noise in the background. I may go get him if that's the case, if he's too noisome. But what I have plugged in, so DJ mixers, since they're used to turntables, they have these things, RCA plugs. Whoops, where the hell did that go? Oh, here it is. I'm going to need this for the show. So this RCA plug, it's a single RCA plug with a mono 1/8 inch jack in the back. Perfect for Eurorack plugging in. So you need to get a set of those for each of the 4 channels on a mixer that you want to be having a signal going to from your Eurorack. If you're going to use Eurorack as your solution, I mean, if you're going to use Eurorack with Xone and using Xone off-board mixing or any type of DJ mixer as an off-board mixer with your Eurorack. The other thing you have to worry about is the levels coming out of here, because Eurorack runs hot compared to other audio equipment. And the good thing is this mixer especially, and a lot of pro mixers, have attenuation knobs, which you can't really see in this picture here. I can't really move the camera very well. But there's attenuation knobs where I can actually control the gain control for the audio coming in to. So I had been for a long time attenuating this way down, but depending on the voice coming out, it was different, and that's problematic for setting up and getting things running and everything. So allow me just one moment. I'm going to go get my pet parrot so he'll shut up. Where's Misha? Where's Misha? All right, I'm back. I'm walking back in the room, closing the door. Here's Misha. He's an eclectus parrot. He's really annoying. Don't ever get a parrot. They're annoying pets. Anyway, although I love him. I've had him for 20 years now. He's 20 years old. They don't ever die, so they will outlive you. They're like elves. Anyway, so what I did yesterday, and this is the big breakthrough for me that made me go, oh, this really works, is I calibrated my Eurorack to the audio input on the Xone, and the way that I did that is I made sure that all the levels coming out of my Eurorack are at a level where when they're at their peak volume, for the most part, like when things get crazy it doesn't matter, but like when they're at pretty much their peak volume, they're only cresting at about 0 dB on the little scales for here for each of the lines here. So if I start playing, there's no pattern here. I'll talk about this in a minute. I can quickly dial up a pattern, which is fun. But are you guys gonna? Yeah, you guys are gonna hear that. So you hear that noise coming through. I don't even know what it sounds like because I don't have it on myself. Let me see for a second. There's gonna be some feedback. Oh yeah, so just that noise. So that coming up, I want to make sure that the levels on this readout right here, look at my hand here, are not cresting above 0 really, because this DJ mixer is designed to really be maxed out at about 0. So, and I can turn this up louder, but the important thing is that it's not going to be. And then I have a master strip up here that shows me the levels too. It tells me if I'm clipping across the entire mix. So I wanted to make sure that everything that I was doing, and I'm going to stop this now, that everything I was doing was coming in at the right levels so that it sounded nice and good and didn't have any problems. So what I did, because the benefits of having an external DJ mixer for your Eurorack is, or are, multiple cool things. First off, I get 4 main rows, 2 effect and send rows, and then I also have these 2 other returns from the send and return. So you actually have 4 send and returns. So you can use the A and B channels on this mixer as separate channels if you wanted to. I'm still using them for returns because I figured out another trick, which I'll talk about in a second. In addition to that, you have, on this mixer in particular, which is the Allen & Heath Xone 96, what's great about it is it has a sound card. It has 2 sound cards built in because it's built for DJing, and one of the sound cards is going into the computer to stream this to you right now, but also when I'm at a gig I can plug in my computer or an iPad or anything that can handle a sound card from something like this and as an audio interface and record all the stems for everything that's coming through. Now the audio interface for this is limited because it's designed for DJs. It's not designed for whatever. So everything's pre. There's no way to set it to be post. So you're getting the raw stems coming through, and it gives you 12 stems, but they're all stereo. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12. In case that wasn't clear, I realize I'm just on my 4th sip of coffee. Channel 1 here on the mixer is there's a USB symbol up at the top that tells me that this is 1 and 2 on the audio interface, and channel 2 is 3 and 4, and channel 3 is 5 and 6, and channel 4 is 7 and 8. And your send and return here is channel 9 and 10. And your B send and return is either 1112 or the master out is 1112. So if you want to do the master mix, you can't record one of the returns in your stems. The way I've gotten around this is right here in my rack. If you look right here, is a little 4MS wave recorder, and this records a very high fidelity stereo mix down of my entire performance every time I play, which is awesome. So highly recommended module. It's 6 HP, costs about I think 250 bucks. It's like having a Zoom recorder that's built exactly for Eurorack, embedded in your Eurorack, and it gives you line levels at the end. So that's how I record my mix. All the rest of my stems, if I set it up properly to do it, are recorded directly into Ableton or into Alm on my iPad into individual tracks, so I can later mix them if I ever bother to. I'm kind of lazy about this. I usually will just master a little bit this track, the thing recorded here, because it sounds nice. But anyway, that's one of the benefits of the Xone mixer. The other benefit is I have 2 filters that I can, any of the channels I can choose with a little toggle switch, whether they don't go through the filter at all or it goes to filter 1 or filter 2. And each filter can be a low pass, high pass, or band pass filter. And it has a crunch sound too that adds some distortion and grit to whatever track you're playing over it. So there's a lot of extra sound control for all your tracks there. And also you have a 4-band EQ for each incoming track too, so you can really tame some of the raw crazy sounds that come from the Eurorack at times, which is cool. And then on the 2 effects tracks, you actually have a parametric EQ that has 4 channels too, but the mid and high, you have parametric control, which is pretty cool, of dialing in exactly the frequencies you want. And all the channels, including the send and return, have send and return capabilities. So I can send the A effects chain through the B effects chain if I wanted to, and vice versa, and cause a big cacophony of feedback. So lots of fun options. So anyway, that's why I decided this would be more fun. I didn't like mixing in the rack. I like playing in the rack when I'm turning a knob or two, but all the mixing of sliding little things in a rack. My favorite mixer that's not too huge is over here. It's the Cosmix by Cosmotronic. I used to have the Hexmix and Hexpander, which took up probably about these 2 hands worth of my rack space, and it was a lot of space to give up just for mixing. And I know this is a lot of space and it's extra weight to carry around, but it's not valuable HP where I can be doing sound and actually doing cool things, and this is more space, so it's easier to play in. So that's one of the reasons I went with it. So what I've done in the rack to go out to this, besides having the little RCA adapters, is each of the individual voices that I have coming out of here, I have, there's 4 main voices here. I have them routing into the morphader, which is right here. So I've got 2 voices into lane 1 and 2 voices into lane 2 of the morphader, and each of those lanes has an A and a B side, and this lets me switch between them, so I can go back and forth between listening to 2 tracks over here or 2 tracks over here. So all 4 of my main voices are coming out of the morphader, going through the zeroscope so I can tune and see what's going on, and then it's going into 2 of the mix sections of the 333 from Frap Tools, which you can barely see because it's all wires. So the 333 right now, it's a high fidelity, high audio it's the only buffered multiple that I believe in. All the others suck. This one is actually very powerful. It's a good mixing tool for a variety of things. Now that I'm using mine exclusively for this, I kind of need another. I may need two. I may need three. We'll see. But it has 3 sections of 3 inputs and 3 outputs. And the 3, and they're color coded red, yellow, and green. And so the red section, all 3 inputs can be some mixed into the 3 outputs. And what's important for the use case that I'm doing here, it has a negative 6 dB switch. So I'm actually pulling the sound down from the audio coming from the Eurorack before it goes out of this and straight into the Xone, into its different lanes. So the red section is my kick drum, the yellow section is voice 1 and coming from the morphader, and the green section is voice 2 coming from the morphader. Which is actually, each of those is two different voices because I can switch back and forth between them, which is really cool. And so what I did yesterday is I actually calibrated everything by using the volume and attenuators that are on the morphader itself, which is right here, to the individual voices coming into it. So this is sending out the same level audio into these 2 lanes of the 333, which is then going out into my Xone, and with my Xone set at 0 dB on the gain across the board, everything's coming out at the same signal level, which, holy crap, once I did that, I was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be mixing. Like, it made it so much more pleasant to be playing different sounds and making them the right levels and everything. So it was a cool little breakthrough for me to realize, oh, I actually do need to compensate for the high hot levels coming out of the Eurorack. Not because the Xone can't handle those hot levels, but because doing so lets everything be evenly, playing at an even playing field for the audio that's coming out. So that's the mixer setup I figured out yesterday, which has been good. And the other thing that I'll talk about, but CK, these are only 3 outs. You said there were 4 channels, right? So the 2 main voices are going into, or the 4 main voices that are the yellow and green outs from the 333 are going into lanes 3 and 4 of the Xone mixer. And what's cool about this is I can basically use the crossfader on the mixer to switch between. So basically I fade from my first voice to my second voice, and the first voice is on the yellow section out and the second voice is on the green section out. And then I can crossfade the morphader over to B and ping pong over to voice 4 and then come back to voice 3. So it lets me do a lot of change ups while my kick, which is coming out straight into lane 1, stays steady the whole time. And the rest of my percussion, this is the part I left out, is coming direct out of the Queen of Pentacles and actually using a stereo to RCA cable, because I have this little adapter, which I'll show you. This little airplane adapter, which Endorphins makes their own version of this for the Queen of Pentacles, but I got one cheap off of Amazon. That's a stereo out. You can plug this. It's just the way they have these mono outs, the 2 mono outs for the Queen of Pentacles position on here. You can actually plug it in directly there. So I have the kick coming straight out into the 333, and then I have the incoming signal on the 333 for the kick molted through this jumper cable and going into the sidechain in on my Mesor compressor, which helps glue the whole mix together. Which I wasn't sure if it really was doing that, but when Travarsi was here, I had her listen to it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's actually having an effect. You're not just imagining it." Because I'm not an audiophile. Like this is my weakness. I'd say I'm more of a grunge guitarist, distortionist who started playing Eurorack and is very melodic for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, so the reason I can do that and have the stereo out coming from the Queen of Pentacles directly into the mixer is because it actually has a volume control for the mix out coming from it. So I attenuated its volume down here without having to do a negative dB thing or anything, and so I dialed it in to the right level, and there's an individual volume control of each of the voices too, so I can still mix the drums, submix the drums in the Queen of Pentacles, which is one of the reasons I love it as a drum unit. I also love it because I've been playing it for a long time and I really understand it. And it also has individual mutes per channel and a high pass to low pass filter, which is DJ style filter, which is amazing. Okay, so that's all the voices coming out of this, and that's how they're coming out of this into this. Let me talk about the actual voices for a second, and hopefully you guys can hear me okay. My levels look okay, but the computer's over here, and I'm turned around talking to my setup. But I'll try to turn sideways. So, voice 1 up here, where you can barely see it in the frame, is my Piston Honda MK3, which is my favorite oscillator of all time, with a black panel on it, because I do only black panels, because I'm crazy like that. Going into the natural gate, actually the channel 1 and channel 2 of the Piston Honda are separately going into channel 1 and channel 2 of the natural gate, and then channel 1 is going out of the natural gate into the low pass entry on Three Sisters with a black panel for mannequins, and channel 2 is going into the center for mannequins. And I have the mix out, which is raw and wouldn't go through natural gate, which partway during my set I actually plug into the high, so that I end up using the Three Sisters as a crossfader across the entire mix of this voice. So this gives me a huge variety of sounds that I can do with that one first voice that's controlled by lane 1 on the Hapax. Lane 2 right here, right between it, then there's an oct from DivKid, which is a great little unclocked LFO that I just use to manually dial stuff in, and I'll be live patching this throughout the show into things to do different stuff, because that's what I do. I'll have a bunch of cables hanging off of it that aren't there now, but I'll probably patch it in live mostly. Right next to that, I always forget the names of these. The Expert Sleepers Lorelei and Evo, which are amazing. It's their analog oscillator and analog filter, both 8 HP, so 16 HP total for these two voices. They sound amazing. I mean, for this voice, it sounds amazing. And it's being controlled by, as my second voice is being controlled by channel 2 on the Hapax. And I have the numbers down at the bottom. Thank you to Heck7. He did a walkthrough of how he uses Hapax, and when he did that, he mentioned putting the numbers at the bottom, because the numbers are put at the top, and it's easy to forget which lane you're in when you're doing stuff, and this has been the best hack ever. And I added like little marks for the 4 on the floor stuff that I do, and which channel is drums, which is channel number 10. And I'll get to that, why it's that way in a minute. So anyway, that's the second voice. Right here, this huge section up in the corner that's pretty, and you can barely see. Actually, can I adjust this up? Did the camera dip some? There we go. Yeah, the camera dipped some. Let me adjust that. Yeah, so anyway, top row, again, Piston Honda, natural gate, Three Sisters, voice 1. Oct, modulation. Expert Sleepers, Lorelei and Evo, voice 2. Extra voice that's not one of my 4 voices, and that I am going to use throughout my set for fun things like that, is my VC looper and granular processor. And so I use this largely as a texture on top of what I'm playing, with samples that I play and granulize and change up, and it's mostly vocals that I've recorded of myself, like what you just heard, or vocals that are from my daughter, and there's one clip from Johnny Greenwood that I'm going to use as filler at the end of my set, but other than that, it's all stuff that I have rights to use or that I've recorded myself. So anyway, this is an amazing module. You have knob and CV control over all the parameters of it. I, being the type of live performer I am, I mostly knob play this thing. I don't do much in terms of actual whatever. Added benefits, it actually has a mic in right here. So this microphone will come with me, and I'll be able to record stuff on the fly if I want to and granularize them coming in here. It has input gain for this too, so you can actually run line level things into Eurorack through this unit, which is great, and it's the only thing that ever got me to remove my ears from my rack. Right now, the way this is routed, which is different than everything else, is it's got a mono out, even though it supports stereo out. It's got the mono out from this going into the Wolf from Pittsburgh Modular, which I'm using for volume control and using as a channel strip, since I don't have that control in the mixer for the way it's coming into the mixer, which I'll get to in a second. But it gives me EQ and channel control on what I'm doing there. And the mono signal from this is going into the mono into the Tip Top Z5000 effects module, and then the stereo out from that module is coming straight out into the C return on the Xone mixer. And the C return on the Xone mixer is one of the 2 extra returns that only supports volume control. That's it. You can just turn it on and off and have volume control. So here, like the way I'm managing the volume and sound is with the Wolf. So the Wolf has a output volume, like a VCA built into it, basically, that has a big knob on it that I'm using to actually turn up the screamings from this when I want them to come through, and turn off when I don't want it playing, basically. So that's how I got an extra audio input. And there's a whole other return here, input D, which I could do the same thing on using another channel strip type thing in the rack, but I'm not. And that's why I have DivKid's stereo strip, but I don't have that currently racked in here. But that's the idea for that, is eventually I'll have another voice that's, something that's more, doesn't need a lot of extra stuff, that's going to be coming in raw audio into the other return on this. The downside of using either of those 2 returns is that neither of them go through the sound card, so I can't record whatever I do there into the stems. They only will be recorded into the full mix. But that's part of the reason I chose this thing to be the thing, because it's like an overlay. It's not really part of the song. It's something that adds some character. It can be clocked to be beat matched to the song, but I think I could reproduce that effect in the studio if I needed to. A sip of coffee. Okay, so I went through 2 of the voices, extra thing that's going into the thing. So third voice down here, I have the dual oscillator model 258T. From the first oscillator from this is going into the 860 from System 80 filter, and the envelopes for this are being provided by the Quad Function Generator 281T that are the Tip Top Buchla modules. You may be saying, wait, those have black panels. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because Gur from Tip Top was nice enough to allow me to make a limited run of black panels for these modules. And we have them for sale on transactionsignal.com/merch. So if you want black panels for your Tip Top Buchla modules, go grab them, please, because it'd be nice if they all sold out and I made back the money that right now I'm underwater on. Anyway, so this is one voice, is the one oscillator from the dual oscillator model 258T into the 860 System 80 filter, and using the envelope, one of the envelopes from the Quad Function Generator to open it up. And then right next to that, I have a Wavefront, which is a 4 HP thing that works with the Wave ring that I'm going to be wearing. I'll have cables patched out of this that will actually modulate different parts of my system just by me waving my hands. Fancy. So that's voice 3. A little bit extra modulation. And voice 4 here finally is my favorite analog oscillator. You know, this is my favorite oscillator of all time, the Piston Honda, but it's digital. But my favorite analog oscillator is the Brinzo. It just has so much sound capabilities and multiple outs and 2 voices and you know, wave folding controls and everything. And so I have it patched out to the 100 grit, which I also love. It's one of my favorite filters. It has these little brass knobbies that I can touch to actually add extra noise while I'm playing. And I should say the envelope, there is no envelope currently going into the natural gate, although I may patch some in. But right now I'm just using the sliders on the natural gate to control envelopes for voice 1, voice 2, and voice 4. Both are getting lane 2 and lane 4 from the Moleco quad envelope, which is right here, controlling them as they're going out. Okay. So wow, I talked about this whole section and all the voices and where they go. But what's all this other stuff? Like, I talked about the Queen of Pinnacles, so that's like my drum section. But what's all this other stuff? So, and I talked about the mix out with the Morphader and how I'm using it. But what's all this other stuff? Okay, so here, let's talk about the send and returns. So I have 2 lanes of send and returns on the Xone that I'm using, patched directly out from the Xone into the Eurorack and then back out to the Xone. Now, since this is audio coming from the Xone, it's already at it's already no longer a Eurorack signal. It's not a hot signal, so I don't have to worry about attenuating this at all, really. So the audio out from Send 1 is going into my magneto, and then and then it's looping back in. So the magneto here is my Send 1. My Send 2 is the Star Lab here with a black panel that I got. That's my Send 2. So I have crazy digital delay and crazy reverb that I use throughout my set is my big 2 effects across everything. And like I said, every single voice in here can be sent to different degrees at different times through these 2 effects, and I have full parametric EQ control on the 2 effects, which is pretty badass. So that's how that's wired up. Then my final signal chain. So the other benefit of the Xone 96 is it has a master send and return effect loop, and the only thing that's bad about that effect loop is it does not come through the sound card at all, so I can never use it for streaming like this unless I repatch my system differently. But for the master out and for everything that I'll be doing when I play live, it's great because I have the full chain of whatever I mixed here post faders, so whatever I'm playing here live going post out of this stereo connection, and that's coming in right here into the Mesor. And so the Mesor is acting as a master compressor across my entire mix, and then that goes into the WMD overseer. And reminder, the Mesor is being sidechained by the kick, so my entire mix is sidechained. My entire mix from the mixer is sidechained by the kick in the mix, and in the Mesor compressor from Cosmotronic, which is great. And then that is going out into the overseer, which I use as a master from WMD, which I'm using as a master DJ style low pass to high pass filter across the entire mix, which is different than there's 2 filters in the Allen and Heath that let me control certain channels, but it doesn't control the whole mix. So now I have 2 plus a master across the whole mix, high pass to low pass filter. And then that in turn goes out to the 4MS Wave recorder, which I mentioned earlier, and records towards my entire set before going back into the mixer and then out to the booth and out to the main thing. So that's my sit-in returns and my master loop out of the rack. But what about all this over here? So right here in between the Queen of Pentacles and the Star Lab and the Magneto is I always forget his name. Mimetic Digitalis from Noise Engineering, which is a sequencer. It's a 4-track sequencer. It's clocked with everything else. I'm really just using it as a sequence set of LFOs that are coming out clocked and affecting different voices in the system. And then down here is my main modulation control, which I don't have very patched right now, but I have the Maestro, which I love for adding LFOs and different things for affecting stuff and having tight control on things. And then the quad envelope from Maleko, which I can use to quickly shape stuff for the two voices that it's affecting. And then right here, this conglomerate of wires where you can't see right before the morphator is the Jolin Lab Agogo and 2 DP LPGs from Qingming. So the Jolin Lab Agogo is a great, actually I have another one over here, is it? Oh, it's racked. I can't pull it out to show it to you. I thought it was unracked, I was going to pull it out. But it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channel LPG that's also a cascading mixer. So so you can have multiple envelopes opening up a single thing that's coming in and making it sound different and coming out from one output, or you can have individual outs for all those 8. The first 2 lanes are at a lower LPG noise, and the next 2 are higher, and then the next 2 are lower, and the next 2 are higher. So 4 of the LPGs in this have a hotter, not distorted, but like more raw, more raw sound. So I use this for submixing some of the stuff that I'm doing before it goes into the morphator. And that's why I have like all these outs coming from the Brinzo, because I have multiple different enveloped voices from the Brinzo all coming out the same out and getting different triggers and envelopes to actually shape the sound a little bit more and make it more crazy. It sounds crazy right now. The way I have it, it sounds like a weird synth stab, which I can show you easily in a minute. So anyway, I think I've been through everything in the rack, and I've explained what I'm doing in the Xone and how that's all working. Now let's talk about the Hapax. So let me adjust the camera a little bit. Whoop. All right. Oh, you know what? I should have adjusted before this just to show you. This is the Agogo unpatched that I was just talking about with the. So these 2 channels are not as hot as these 2, and then these 2 are not as hot as these 2, but it's got a total of 8, and it cascades down. And if you patch out right before you have another patch in, that breaks the normalization chain. So I can mix these first 3 channels. I can just have this one being out, and then I can mix all of these by having it out here. So it's a interesting little LPG mixer, and I've got 2 of them, although both of them aren't racked. So right now, and I kind of feel bad that I don't have my favorite sequencer of all time, the Lifeforms Micro Sequence. If you ever get a chance to grab one of these, you should. It's the best, funnest little 10 HP sequencer ever made. But I don't have it in my rack for this show, and I feel bad about it. I feel weirdly naked about it. But I'm really trying to lean on the Hapax for this show. I was torn between, okay, do I do this whole show between in the Hapax, or do I use my longtime favorite, which I will also never get rid of, but I want to mention the Vector by 512 High Gem. And I really like the Vector. It's a lot of fun. It's very Eurorack sequencer, and as you can see, I've got a little skiff here with the Lapson Sauce and the jack expander and the Vector. And I could have done this whole set on this, but I really wanted to take the time to learn the Hapax, because I had bought it and it's fun, but I hadn't really learned it really well. And the one thing that I figured out, so the cool thing that I've set up with Hapax is I have, instead of using it has eight outs, CV outs, patch cable outs that can be whatever you want them to be. 4 CV, 4 gates. Right now I just have one of the gates coming out to be the master clock going into the Maestro for the Eurorack. So the clock is being sent to the Eurorack from the last gate. I'm not using any of these other jacks, you'll notice. Why? Because cables are a mess to deal with. You're already dealing with this whole mess, and I don't want to have to remember what to patch from here to here for a live show when I set up. What I do want to do is have a single MIDI cable going out from this one port on the Hapax, and that single MIDI cable coming into the mutant brain up here. Let's see, can you see it even? It's just a bunch of cables. The mutant brain, which gives me control of all of my drum voices, plus an extra lane. That's the one thing I left out. And then all 4 of the voices that are up here. All of that is being controlled by one cable from the Hapax. Okay, before I go back to the Hapax, because I just realized I left something out. I didn't talk about what the second oscillator in the dual oscillator model 258T is doing. So the second oscillator from this is tuned to C, and it's going straight out into the last channel of the Agogo that I was just talking about. Color got weird with that. And in this last channel, the envelope is coming from the second envelope set from the quad function generator. So it's all Buchla tip-top together. And then the audio out from that LPG that's being opened up and closed by that envelope is coming back into the auxiliary in my Queen of Pentacles, and it's acting as a 8th drum voice that I use rhythmically, basically as a tune to C bass line that's playing. Okay, so back to the Hapax, and this is what makes this setup pretty cool. I'm going to sit down for this part. Let me readjust the camera so we're pointing out right. Here's my little tuner. Here's my headphones. Here's a bunch of patch cables. Anyway, so what's cool about the Hapax is by default, channel 1 is coming out of MIDI A, and it's MIDI channel 1. Channel 2 is coming out of MIDI channel A, and it's MIDI channel 2. Channel 3, you get the idea. Anyway, 1 through 4 map directly without me doing anything extra to the A out here and voices 1 through 4 from the mutant inverter. So that's why I can quickly like start playing and write something. I can't hear what's happening right now. Let me turn something here. Oh yeah. So if I go to voice 2 now, so you guys can hear that. So anyway, so you know, that's voice 2, that's voice 1. I have the crossfader to switch between them for the setup I was saying earlier. But I can quickly sketch out 1, 2, 3, 4, and just like this. And then at the pattern level, I can set if I wanted to. Let me have it do a scale, and let me actually have this all. I want this to be blue scale. That's what I prefer, honestly. Like most stuff I write is in blue scale. So set it all to blue scale. Every single lane will be in tune and quantized to all the other lanes, assuming everything's tuned up here, which I do tune at the beginning of stuff now that I'm doing this. But I can quickly sketch out lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, lane 4. And then after I do that, if I go to a pattern, you see a bunch of patterns. Now, where this becomes cool is if I click this, I'm gonna blow away what I just did. I'm gonna load my Knobcon set. And if I go back to pattern, you'll see I have all these patterns So I can load any of these at any time to play whatever I want to. I have everything marked out so that I can choose different parts to play and intermix different things that I'm playing. Now, row 10 right now is default out because on the hex mix, I mean not the hex mix, the mutant brain, lane 10 controls the trigger outs, the trigger sequencer of it that I'm using for my Queen of Pentacles and my drum creation. Sorry, my family's doing breakfast and they're being loud. So 10 is by default the drums. So is 11. And the reason 11 is, and so I can mute any of these lanes. So 1 through 4 or 1 through 4. I also have 5 through 8, which are duplicating 1 through 4. So I have, this is the main beginning set that I play, and then I switch over to these other things later on. But they correspond to 1, 2, 3, 4. The 1, 2, 3, 4 voices, and then 10 is the drums, and then 11 is a duplicate of the drums. If I go back out of this, if I just shoot new, yes, okay. So the thing that I discovered on lane 10 here, since it goes to output 10, I don't actually have to change this into a drum patch. I can just play notes, and the notes correspond to the outs out on the hex inverter, so I can quickly just go like this and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you guys should be hearing a kick. Yeah, and then I can go here and go. And quickly put together a beat without messing with drums or anything on this. And you can mute every lane here, and you can mute multiple lanes at the same time. So you can play this, and then I can do this, and then go, and all of a sudden you hear it. So I can write stuff so quickly with this now that I figured out this mapping and everything with this patch. So I've been kind of living in this patch for a while, and it's allowed me to write a lot of stuff and content for my Knobcon show, and I feel pretty good about it. So my next steps in preparing for the show today, my goal is to take a bunch of these, see these, and tie up a bunch of these wires so they're out of my way, and then I'm going to start patching some of the added on modulation from the Maestro, which you can no longer see because I changed the camera again. What the frig? It won't even show what we're showing before. Oh, you can barely see it over there now. I need a better camera setup. Anyway, over here, the Maestro. So today I'm gonna use, oh, you know what? The whole arm fell. That's what happened. Freaking thing. Hold on. Stupid cameras. I'm just using a mic stand to mount this thing. I need to find a better solution. Anyway, so today I'm gonna take these and use these to tie up my wires so they're mostly out of the way, and then I'm going to patch in another layer of modulation. Then I'm going to tape that up too so it's out of the way, and then I'm going to go through and practice my whole set and make sure everything sounds good and that I have the timing kind of set up right. And then I'm going to do that all today and tomorrow during Labor Day, and then I'm going to stop playing entirely until Knobcon and just wing it when I'm there. Anyway, that's my setup. That's my live setup that I'm currently using. I thought it'd be interesting for me to walk through what I was going to do ahead of time. After Knobcon, because of this setup, I will have a full recording of the audio of this. Thanks to Radiator on the Discords, he's going to actually video record my performance, so I should have a produced little bit of video that I'll release afterwards to show everybody what I did at Knobcon. I'll have the audio that we'll probably release as one of our transduction signal albums eventually, and I will do an unpatching and another video like this talking about how it went, and hopefully I'll have a better camera setup by then. So anyway, hope this proves to be useful or interesting for somebody. Nobody showed up to actually watch it, or there's 2 people watching now. Okay, a few people showed up. Nobody said anything though. Hi everybody. But I hope this was useful or interesting, and I hope you could hear me, because if I talked all this time and the audio was so low you can't even hear me, I'm going to be pissed. Anyway, I need another coffee. Happy